Just when the world thought Sadiq's story had reached its happiest chapter, trouble quietly knocked. One evening in his glass office in Abuja, Sadiq stared at a shocking financial report. Millions. Missing. Not misplaced. Missing. He added just his glasses slowly. Aha! Who is trying to recycle my money without permission? He muttered. Have you ever wondered if a 7-year-old abandoned on the streets could become a billionaire CEO? Meet Sadiq Ibrahim, a boy from the dusty streets of Kano who was left to survive as an Alma Yiri. With nothing but determination, courage, and a sharp mind, he scavenged trash to pay his school fees, rose through primary and secondary school, graduated top of his class in university, and went on to build Ibrahim Global Ventures, his own empire, becoming a billionaire at 32. This is a story of hustle, vision, and never letting your past define your future. Fire if you love inspiring stories like this. Hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter of unbelievable journeys and life-changing inspiration. Because sometimes the greatest treasures come from the places the world forgets. If you want, I can also make a punchy, suspenseful teaser intro for the next story that really grabs the audience in the first 10 seconds. Do you want me to do that? The morning sun rose slowly over Kano, stretching its golden fingers across dusty rooftops and narrow streets. Goats argued over nothing. Kiki drivers argued over everything. And on the cold edge of a broken pavement sat 7-year-old Sadiq. No bag, no guardian, no explanation, just silence. He watched other Alma Yiri boys walk behind their Mallam, reciting verses in tired voices. He tried to follow, but something inside him felt misplaced. That was the morning he understood something without anyone explaining it. He had been abandoned. He scratched his head and sighed. Okay, so life done press hard mode without asking me. A boy beside him laughed. You day laugh? You know get house. Sadiq shrugged. I know get house, but I still get brain. Some people get house, but their brain rent expire. The boy blinked. This small boy talked too much. That evening, hunger knocked like a landlord. Sadiq sat near a roadside suya stand, inhaling the smell like it was oxygen. The suya man noticed him staring. Omo, you want buy or you want faint here? Sadiq smiled politely. Uncle, if looking was money, I for don buy full cow. The man burst into laughter and handed him a tiny piece. Carry this before your joke kill me. Sadiq held the meat like treasure. Thank you, sir. When I become big man, I go buy your whole shop. A beg grow first, the man waved him off. Sadiq whispered to himself, I will. Discovery at the dump site. The next morning, while walking aimlessly, he saw older boys dragging sacks filled with plastic bottles. They looked tired but purposeful. One of them shouted, Move! This area na our territory. Sadiq didn't move. He stared at the bottles, eyes calculating. How much one bag day sell? The tallest boy looked confused. Why you want know? Because I like money. Even small one. They laughed. See this one. You be banker? Sadiq crossed his arms. No, but I go be. That was how he followed them to the dump site for the first time. The smell attacked him like an angry spirit. Chai! He coughed. This place need perfume. The boys ignored him and continued digging through trash. First, his stomach turned. His hands shook. But then he saw something different. Plastic bottles, cartons, scrap metal. He didn't see dirt. He saw school fees. The decision. That night, under a flickering streetlight, Sadiq counted the coins he earned from selling his first small bag of recyclables. It wasn't much, but it was his. He looked at the moon. Listen, he said seriously. I know who forget me here, but I no go forget myself. A passing man overheard and muttered, This boy day talk like old man inside small body. Sadiq grinned. Uncle, old man wisdom no day check age. He tightened his grip on the coins. Tomorrow he would find a school, even if he had to pay for it bottle by bottle. A small door opens. The next week he stood in front of a modest primary school gate. His clothes were worn, his slippers uneven. The security man blocked him. School no be free cinema. Sadiq lifted his chin. I know. That's why I bring money. He poured his crumpled notes and coins into his small palm. The security man stared. Where you get this? Business, Sadiq replied confidently. What business? Waste management. The man laughed so hard he had to hold the gate. Eventually, the head teacher was called. She listened quietly to his story. You want to pay your own fees? She asked softly. Yes, ma. If you allow me, I go continue paying small. She looked into his determined eyes and saw something rare. Not pity. Fire. All right, she said. You can start tomorrow. Sadiq tried to act calm. Inside, fireworks were exploding. As he walked away, he whispered to himself. From today, trash picker by morning, scholar by afternoon, CO loading. He stopped and looked at the sky again. God, hope you ready? Because I'm coming for greatness. And somewhere in the noisy streets of Kano, a forgotten boy quietly began rewriting his destiny. But little did Sadiq know. The streets that trained him were about to test him in ways even hunger never could. By the time Sadiq turned 8, his life had developed a strange timetable. Morning, scavenger. Afternoon, pupil. Night, philosopher under streetlight. In Kano, people had started noticing the small boy who carried a sack of bottles in one hand and a schoolbook in the other. One afternoon at the dump site, an older boy mocked him. Scholar, come and carry this heavy bag. Or your book go help you lift am. Sadiq add just the rope on his shoulder. My book no day lift bag, he replied calmly. But one day my brain go lift me. The boys laughed. Lift you go where? London? Sadiq shrugged. Anywhere my effort reach. The classroom shock. His first week in class was dramatic. The teacher, Mrs. Zainab, wrote a long mathematics problem on the board. Most pupils stared at it like it was written in Greek. Sadiq raised his hand. Yes? She asked, surprised. He walked to the board, solved it step by step, then stepped aside. The class went silent. One boy whispered, This one sure say him no be ghost? Mrs. Zainab folded her arms. Where did you learn this? Sadiq replied, Ma, numbers no get tribe. If you sit with them long enough, they will greet you. The teacher blinked twice. This boy, she muttered softly, is trouble, the good kind, the secret study strategy. At night, Sadiq studied under a flickering security bulb outside a closed supermarket. Sometimes the light would suddenly go off. Aha! Even bulb join life to frustrate me? He complained. The security guard would laugh from his chair. Omo, go sleep. You too like book. Sadiq shook his head. Sleep no day pay school fees, uncle. The guard smiled and sometimes shifted the lamp closer to him. Just don't finish the light, he warned jokingly. Sadiq saluted. Yes, sir. Managing Director of Electricity. Hunger versus homework. There were days hunger almost defeated him. One afternoon in class, his stomach growled so loudly the entire row turned. A girl giggled. Your stomach day sing? Sadiq leaned closer and whispered, No, it's just rehearsing for my success party. She laughed, shaking her head. After school, he would rush to the dump site, work twice as hard, sell more bottles, then buy the cheapest food possible. While eating one evening, he spoke to himself. CN, Sadiq, you fit be poor now, but your result no go be poor. At the end of term, exam results were posted. Students crowded around the notice board, pushing and shouting. Sadiq stood at the back quietly. One boy screamed, First position. Sadiq. Silence followed. Then whispers. That Alma Yuri boy? The one-way day smell like dump site sometimes? How? Sadiq stepped forward slowly and checked for himself. There it was. First position. He scratched his head. So effort day actually work. Mrs. Zainab approached him. I am proud of you. Sadiq smiled shyly. Ma, I know fit disappoint my investment. Investment? She laughed. Yes, every bottle I carry is like paying shares into my future. She shook her head in amazement. You think like a businessman. He winked slightly. Coming soon. Jealousy arrives. But success, even in primary school, attracts enemies. A group of boys cornered him one afternoon. You think say because you come first, you be king? Sadiq crossed his arms. No, I just refuse to be last. They pushed him. His books fell into the dust. For a moment, anger flashed in his eyes. But instead of fighting, he picked up his books calmly. You fit scatter my book, he said quietly. But you no fit scatter my brain. One boy scoffed. We go see. Sadiq smiled. Yes, you will. A promise to himself. That night, sitting alone, he looked at his exam paper again. First position. He pressed it to his chest. I no get father to clap for me, he whispered. But one day, the world go clap. A breeze passed gently through the quiet street. And in the heart of Kano, a boy who once had nothing was building something invisible but powerful. Reputation. But while Sadiq was busy rising to the top of his class, someone was quietly watching him, and their intentions were not pure. When Sadiq reached primary 6 in Kano, he was no longer that Alma Yuri boy. He was now known as the first position problem. Anytime results came out, other pupils would sigh dramatically. One boy complained, "Why this Sadiq no day sick during exam week?" Sadiq overheard and replied, "My immune system is sponsored by determination." The class burst into laughter. The big announcement. One hot Tuesday afternoon, Mrs. Zainab entered the classroom with unusual excitement. Class, there is a state scholarship exam next month. The top 3 pupils will receive full sponsorship into a top secondary school. The room exploded. Full sponsorship? That meant no school fees, no uniform stress, no scavenging to survive. Sadiq felt his heart beat faster. He raised his hand. Ma, transport NKO? Feeding NKO? She smiled gently. Everything will be covered. For the first time in a long while, Sadiq allowed himself to dream without calculating cost. Later that day at the dump site, he worked twice as fast. One older scavenger teased him. Why you day smile like person way see free food? Sadiq grinned. Better than free food. Free future. Preparation mode. Activated. For weeks, Sadiq barely slept. He revised mathematics under the supermarket light. He memorized English passages while sorting plastic bottles. He even practiced interview questions aloud while walking. One passerby heard him talking to himself. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Sadiq answered confidently, very far from here. The passerby shook his head. This boy no normal. The day of the exam. The scholarship exam was held in a large hall. For the first time, Sadiq sat among students wearing polished shoes and expensive wristwatches. One boy beside him stared at his worn sandals. You sure say you register for correct exam? Sadiq smiled calmly. Yes, I just come from different branch. The invigilator shouted. Begin! Sadiq closed his eyes briefly. God, he whispered. I don't read. I beg let my brain cooperate. He opened the paper and smiled. The questions looked familiar, like old friends. 2 hours later, he dropped his pen confidently. Outside, other students complained. Question 3 wicked. English passage confusing. Sadiq stretched his arms. Confusing? It was just testing your patience. The shock. Results were announced 2 weeks later. The school compound was packed. Sadiq stood quietly at the back again. A government official ad just the microphone. In third place, names were called. In second place, more cheers. Then the official paused. And in first place with the highest score in the entire state. The crowd leaned forward. Sadiq Ibrahim. Silence. Then murmurs. That boy? The scavenger? Impossible. Mrs. Zainab screamed louder than anyone. Sadiq stood frozen. Eh? He muttered. Me? The official beckoned him forward. As he walked to collect his letter, cameras flashed. The same boys who once mocked him now stared in disbelief. One whispered, Guy, you don't hack destiny. Sadiq collected the scholarship letter carefully. No hacking, he said softly. Just hard work update. The twist. But just when everything seemed perfect, trouble appeared. A local man, greedy and influential, approached him later that evening. I heard you won scholarship, the man said smoothly. Yes, sir. You know, processing documents costs money. If you cannot pay certain fees, the slot may disappear. Sadiq frowned. But they said everything is covered. The man shrugged. Nothing is truly free. For a moment, fear crept in. Was his opportunity about to be stolen? Sadiq went silent. Then he looked up boldly. Sir, he said calmly, I may be small, but I am not foolish. If the scholarship disappear, it will not disappear quietly. The man narrowed his eyes. You dare threaten me? Sadiq smiled slightly. No, I'm just allergic to injustice. A new ally. The next day, Mrs. Zainab stormed into the local education office after hearing what happened. Within days, investigations were launched. The corrupt official was removed, and Sadiq's scholarship was secured. When Mrs. Zainab told him the news, he exhaled deeply. So my destiny nearly expired because of processing fee? She laughed. Not on my watch. Sadiq bowed slightly. One day, Ma, I go build school where no child will pay bribe for dream. She smiled proudly. I believe you. That night, under the same streetlight where everything began, Sadiq looked at his scholarship letter. Secondary school, he whispered. He folded it carefully. Level up. But he didn't know. Secondary school would introduce him to something more dangerous than poverty. Comparison. And comparison, unlike hunger, can quietly kill confidence. The day Sadiq entered his new secondary school in Kano, he almost turned back. The gate alone looked like it had a security clearance. Students stepped out of shiny cars. Drivers opened doors. Perfume floated in the air like it paid school fees too. Sadiq had just his neatly washed, but clearly overused uniform. Okay, he whispered to himself. Nobody here knows you used to negotiate with goats for space on the street. Stand straight. A boy walked past him and paused. Are you lost? Sadiq smiled politely. No, I'm just buffering. The boy blinked. Buffering? Yes, loading greatness. The boy walked away slowly. This one no normal. Hostile reality check. Boarding house life was another battlefield. His roommates had fancy wristwatches and new gadgets. One evening, as they unpacked expensive snacks, one of them stared at Sadiq's small nylon bag. That all you bring? Sadiq nodded. Yes, I travel light. Success no heavy. They laughed. Another roommate picked up his sandals. These shoes Don C wore. Sadiq replied calmly. Yes, and we won. The room went silent. Academic pressure. Classes were intense. The teachers moved fast. The competition was fierce. For the first time, Sadiq didn't immediately top the first test. He came. Third. He stared at the result sheet like it insulted his ancestors. Third? He whispered. Who authorized this? A classmate smirked. Welcome to real competition. That night, Sadiq lay on his bunk staring at the ceiling. Comparison crept in quietly. Maybe I was just big fish in small pond, he murmured. But then he remembered the dump site, the hunger, the streetlight. He sat up. No, he said firmly. I did not carry trash for years to come third. His roommate turned over sleepily. Who you day argue with? My temporary failure, Sadiq replied. The library becomes his new streetlight. If others studied 2 hours, Sadiq studied 4. If they revised once, he revised 3 times. The library became his new territory. The librarian once joked, Are you trying to move in here? Sadiq grinned. Ma, rent here cheaper than ignorance. He created summary notes. He asked teachers extra questions. He formed small study groups. One student complained, Sadiq, you day stress us with too much seriousness. He shrugged. I know come here for fashion parade. Midterm exams came again. The hall was silent except for the scratching of pens. Sadiq finished his mathematics paper and leaned back calmly. This time he wasn't nervous. He was prepared. When results were announced, the principal called an assembly. For the first time this term, he announced, We have a new overall best student. Students whispered excitedly. And that student is Sadiq Ibrahim. Applause filled the hall. Some genuine, some forced. The same boy who had asked if he was lost now stared in disbelief. Buffering complete, Sadiq whispered under his breath. The scholarship upgrade. His performance attracted attention. A representative from an educational foundation visited the school. After reviewing records, they called him for an interview. Your background says you were once an Alma Yuri? The interviewer asked. Yes, sir. And now you are topping the school? Yes, sir. How? Sadiq smiled slightly. Sir, when you grow up with nothing, you learn to value everything. The man nodded thoughtfully. Weeks later, Sadiq received another scholarship, this time with a monthly stipend. When he saw the allowance alert for the first time, he blinked. So money can enter account without carrying bottle? He muttered. His roommate laughed. Welcome to soft life. Sadiq shook his head. No, not soft life. Smart life. The vision expands. With financial pressure eased, Sadiq started thinking bigger. He joined the debate club. He entered business plan competitions. In one contest, he proposed a recycling company that would convert waste into energy. The judges looked impressed. Where did you get this idea? One asked. Sadiq smiled knowingly. Experience. By the end of secondary school, he wasn't just the best academically. He was respected, even admired. At graduation, the principal shook his hand. You are going places. Sadiq replied confidently, Sir, I've already left. But as he prepared for university entrance exams, he didn't know. The next chapter would test not just his intelligence, but his integrity. Because sometimes the biggest temptation comes when you are finally close to comfort. University admission season arrived like harmattan dust, everywhere and stressful. Sadiq had applied to study business administration at a top federal university in Abuja. When the admission list was released, students rushed to cybercafes as if free jollof rice was being served. Sadiq stood quietly at the back of a crowded cafe. Shift small, someone shouted. Destiny no day rush, Sadiq replied calmly. Finally, his turn came. The cafe attendant typed his registration number slowly, too slowly. Oga, a beg type like person way believe in future, Sadiq said. The screen refreshed. Admitted. He blinked. Confirm M again. The attendant laughed. Omo, you don enter university. Stop refreshing before admission change mind. Sadiq stepped outside, breathing deeply. From dump site to degree site, he whispered. Level upgraded. The offer. But joy does not travel alone. 2 days later, he received a message from a man claiming to be connected to the university system. If you want guaranteed first-class graduation, the message read, there is a support package. Sadiq frowned. Support package? He muttered. Since when did success start doing promo? Curious, he met the man in a small office near the campus. The man leaned back confidently. You are brilliant, but university is different. Lecturers are powerful. Things can happen. For a fee, we ensure smooth journey. Sadiq crossed his arms. How much is smooth journey? The man mentioned a figure that could feed Sadiq for a year. And if I don't pay? The man smiled thinly. Then you'll struggle like others. Sadiq stood up slowly. Sir, he said calmly. I've been struggling since I was 7. You're late. He walked out. Outside, he exhaled. Imagine trying to bribe someone who grew up negotiating with hunger. University shock. University life in Abuja was bigger, louder, and more distracting than secondary school. Students debated politics loudly. Some skipped classes confidently. Some spent more time in fashion than in lectures. One classmate approached him during the first week. Guy, freshers party tonight. You coming? Sadiq looked up from his notebook. What is the agenda? Fun. Does fun add to CGPA? The classmate rolled his eyes. You too serious. Sadiq grinned. My seriousness is sponsored by my past. The side hustle returns. Even with scholarships, Sadiq refused to relax completely. He started a small campus recycling initiative. While others threw away plastic bottles after parties, Sadiq collected them. One friend laughed. Bro, you be billionaire's son in disguise or what? Sadiq shook his head. No. I just understand that waste is opportunity wearing dirty clothes. Within a year, his small recycling hustle expanded. He partnered with hostels. He paid other students small commissions to gather recyclables. One girl joked, "So you're basically turning our laziness into profit?" Sadiq winked. "Thank you for your contribution to my future empire." The first major test. Second year came with one of the hardest business analytics courses in the faculty. Many students failed the first test. The lecturer, known for being strict, adjusted his glasses and said, "Only serious minds will survive this course." After class, a group of students approached Sadiq. "Guy, you sabi book, help us na." He agreed to tutor them for free. One of them asked, "Why you no charge money?" Sadiq smiled. "Because I'm investing in network, not pocket." They stared at him. This boy is planning something. The result that shocked the faculty. By final year, Sadiq had built a reputation. Disciplined, innovative, focused. His final project was on sustainable waste-to-wealth models in urban Nigeria. The presentation hall was packed. After he finished, one professor whispered to another, "This is not undergraduate work." When results were released, the department posted a notice. First-class honors, highest CGPA in faculty history. Students gathered around the board. One shouted, "Sadiq, you actually did it." He smiled calmly. "No surprise. I've been rehearsing for this since primary school." A week after graduation, he received an email from a multinational sustainability and energy firm inviting him for an interview. During the interview, the panel asked, "What drives you?" Sadiq replied without hesitation, "Sir, I grew up in a place where survival was a daily exam. Now I just write different exams." They nodded. "You start Monday." As he left the office building in Abuja, he looked at the skyscrapers around him. "Okay," he said softly, "corporate world, let's negotiate." But little did Sadiq know, employment was just training. Real power would come when he decided to stop building other people's dreams and build his own. And that decision would come sooner than anyone expected. At 23, Sadiq Ibrahim walked into his new office at Green Tech Solutions for the first time. Not as a student, but as a fresh graduate ready to make an impression. The office smelled of polished wood, air conditioning, and ambition. His colleagues, some twice his age, sized him up. "Who's the new kid?" whispered one. "Apparently he graduated top of his class," another replied. Sadiq overheard and smiled slightly. "Well, they know my CV, but they don't know my hustle history, the corporate jungle." At first, Sadiq's days were a whirlwind of reports, meetings, and coffee that cost more than a day's scavenging. One senior manager tried to intimidate him. "Look, kid, corporate rules aren't the street. You can't just show up and act smart." Sadiq leaned back and replied calmly, "Sir, I learned street rules first. Corporate rules are just upgraded street rules." The manager blinked. Clever. Dangerous. Within months, Sadiq was solving problems no one else could decode. From streamlining waste collection operations to designing profit-driven recycling strategies, he impressed the board. The first big idea. One rainy evening, Sadiq sat in his tiny office cubicle, staring at a mountain of data. "This is it," he muttered. "What if we turn waste into energy and profit? Not just here, but across Africa?" He drafted a detailed proposal. When he presented it to the board, one director raised an eyebrow. "You want to risk millions on garbage?" Sadiq smiled. "Sir, I risked hunger, sleeping in alleys, and negotiating with goats. Millions on trash is minor." By the end of the meeting, the board approved a pilot project. 6 months later, it generated 40% more profit than any department in the company. The empire awakens. By 25, Sadiq realized he had learned everything he could as an employee. One evening, he looked at his modest apartment. "Time to stop building other people's dreams. My empire is waiting," he whispered. With his savings, knowledge, and connections, he started Ibrahim Global Ventures, a company focusing on sustainable recycling, green energy, and innovative tech solutions. He hired a small team of dedicated former students and trusted colleagues. The first office was a cramped space above a printing shop. One investor joked, "Why your CEO office look like a student hostel?" Sadiq laughed, "Because greatness doesn't need space. It needs ideas." The billionaire years. Over the next 7 years, Sadiq's company expanded across Nigeria and beyond. He developed contracts with major cities for waste-to-energy projects. He partnered with universities to train young innovators. He invested in tech startups solving Africa's environmental problems. At 32, he officially became a billionaire. Journalists crowded his office. One asked, "From Almayiri to billionaire, what's the secret?" Sadiq leaned back and smiled. "Simple. I treat life like a recycling project. Whatever is thrown at you, find value in it, and turn it into opportunity." Another journalist asked jokingly, "And your first bottle? Do you still have it?" Sadiq chuckled, "Yes, in my office, right next to the first contract I signed." Motivation comes with nostalgia. Giving back. Despite wealth, Sadiq never forgot his roots. He established scholarship programs for Almayiri children. He funded schools, hospitals, and waste-to-energy initiatives in northern Nigeria. He often returned to the streets of Kano to remind children that even if the world forgets you, you must never forget yourself. One day, a young boy approached him and asked, "Oga Sadiq, how you take start from nothing?" He crouched down and smiled. "Pick everything life throws at you, even if it's trash. One day you'll see it as treasure." A legend in the making. Sadiq's story spread across the country. From scavenger to scholar. From employee to innovator. From abandoned boy to billionaire CEO. And everywhere he went, he reminded people of one truth. Your past does not determine your future. Your hustle does. But even as Sadiq built his empire, whispers began of competitors who wanted to challenge his vision. And the real test of his leadership was only just beginning. Sadiq Ibrahim's journey is proof that your beginning does not define your ending. From a 7-year-old Almayiri abandoned on the streets of Kano, to scavenging trash to pay school fees. From topping his class in primary school, surviving secondary school, and graduating first class at university. From working tirelessly in a top organization to building Ibrahim Global Ventures, his own empire. To becoming a billionaire CEO at 32. Sadiq's story shows that determination, courage, and vision can turn even the humblest beginnings into extraordinary success. Sparkles, the lesson is simple. When life throws trash at you, don't run away. Pick it up, learn from it, and turn it into treasure. If Sadiq's journey inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell. There's more real-life inspiration, suspense, and unbelievable transformations coming your way, because greatness often starts in places the world forgets. But those who refuse to give up make history. Remember, your hustle today is the empire of tomorrow.